What's up, guys? I'm back with another what if. Alright, so this is the same what if. What if Deku was werewolf? And I'm gonna start off from where I last left off. So Deku basically left. Deku basically kicked the fuck out, like beat the fuck out of Bakugo, and he beat the fuck out of Bakugo, and he picked Bakugo's body, and he picked up Ida's, and he took them to the room where everybody else was at, where the cameras and shit monitoring everybody, like every movement, all that, over all around the building. So, as soon as Midoriya exited from the fucking, actually no. So as Midoriya was walking in the dark, like in the hallway, people heard footsteps. So, everybody looked back, and they saw red eyes, right? They saw red eyes. So, everybody was like, "What the fuck? Like, that's scary as fuck." And as soon as Midoriya came to the light, they just see like as Midoriya was in the darkness, you could just see his red eyes, his blood red crimson eyes, right? So like he was walking and you could follow his red eyes because they're bright as fuck. But when he exited when he entered the light, you could see his body, and he was like, and he didn't say anything, but he walked towards All Might. He dropped All Might's body. He dropped not All Might's body. He dropped Bakugo's body, and he dropped Ida's too. And basically, like he told All Might, he's like, All Might, I need a, and then he got a call on his phone. So he answered the call. And yes, he has a phone because of Aizawa. Aizawa got him a phone so he can contact Midori whenever something happens. Whenever something happens. So yeah, give me a second. Oh shit. This is like my sixth attempt to do a what if. So yeah. Alright, so yeah. Basically Midoriya says, "Hey yo, I need to go to the locker room." And she's like, and All Might's like, "Alright, yes, my young Midoriya, go ahead." So Midoriya goes into the dark the dark hallway. He starts walking, and All Might calls Nezu. He's like, "Nezu, we need fucking medical doctors or some shit right here." And they send the robots, and they pick up Bakugo and Ida. They take them to the nurse's office. Recovery girl fixes them up real good. She kissed Ida on the thigh, she kissed him on the calf, and then she gave Bakugo a BJ, and Bakugo nutted from that because he thought it was like a hot girl, but it was really an old lady. And yeah, hey, I'm serious. Yeah, Bakugo got sexually assaulted. So yeah, and Midoriya Nezu called Mitsuki. Mitsuki got called. She came to the school and she was like, "Hey yo, who beat up my son and shit?" Nezu tells her like, "Oh, it's Izuku Midoriya." She's like, "Izuku Midoriya?" And, he's like, "Yes, do you know this student?" She's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "That fucking Izuku Midoriya." And Nezu tells her like, "Hey, like, Miss, can you please not use a student's name and in the sentence with a curse word, because I'm sorry, but I will not stand by and let you cuss a student out." And she's like, whatever. So she leaves the nurse's office. She starts roaming around the school. She sees Midoriya walking somewhere. So she runs in front of him. She's like, "Hey yo, you beat my son." Midoriya's like, "Who's your son?" She says, my name is Mitsuki Bakugo, and my son is Katsuki Bakugo." And Midoriya basically looked at her. He's like, "Huh?" She's like, she shows him a picture. He's like, "Oh yeah, him." And then, sorry. And then basically, this is gonna be a shitty what if. Honestly, I understand if you guys want me to do a redo. I understand. Honestly, I really do. So basically, Mitsuki tries to nut check in with her knee. Midoriya blocks it with his forearm, and he basically grabs it and he twists it, and he flicks the back of her, and she did a full 360, and Midoriya basically he flicked the back of her back, and she flew forward, and then she fell. hit a hit a locker, and then she got a concussion. She fell asleep. There you go. Simple as that. Midoriya went to the locker room, and then he found Mount Lady. He found Mount Lady, and then he's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm just here to do," and she's like, "Nothing." And Midoriya's like, "It looks like you're doing something." And remember, Midoriya's wearing he's wearing his he's not wearing a shirt, or he's not like, neither is he wearing like nothing. He's just wearing some booty shorts, and that's it. So yeah. And he walks up to her. He's like, get out of the like locker. She's a little sad. So she's about to walk out of there, but then like Midoriya realizes something. He's like, yeah, wait. And she's like, huh? And Midoriya, like, by the way, she was close to opening. So she opened the door halfway, and then Midoriya like closed it, and he's like, wait, you could help me with something. She's like, what is it? And basically like 5 minutes later, they're fucking, dude. I'm just kidding. Basically, Midoriya says, you would help me. She says, how? Midoriya takes a step forward. She takes a step back. He takes another step forward. She takes another step back. And she's like, cornered now. And Midoriya puts his arm on the locker, and then he puts his hand on the other locker side. And it's like, you could help me with something. And she's like, what is that? Midoriya pulls out his blanker. She immediately, knees down, and she squats down, and she gives him a BJ. She gives him that she gives him that Samsung Spin Cycle 3000 Underwater Saving Atlantis, level double decker, pecker, wecker, glug, glizzy, gobbler, wee, hammer, stopping, topping, I forgot that shit. But whatever, you know what I mean. And Midoriya finally nutted, and it's like he nutted, and then all of a sudden Midoriya grabs her head, and he pushed her, like he made her go deep through it, right? And then yeah, like that shit, like he nuts again, and then he nutted in her mouth, like so deep into her throat. She practically swallowed it without trying to swallow it. She didn't even need to swallow it, actually. No, she didn't. So now her stomach's full with cum, and then basically Midoriya lays down, and then she goes on top of him. She puts his dick in her, and she starts going up and down. Midoriya nuts again, and she does cowgirl for a good 5 seconds, and then going up and down, up and down, up and down. He nuts, she nuts, well, not nuts, busts and shit, whatever. Then they do the reverse cowgirl, and he nuts again, she nuts. And then they do doggy style. Midoriya's like standing, she's like on her knees and shit. Not on her knees, on her knees and hands and shit. He's like basically going back like back and forth with just his back and forth with just his waist, and he finally nuts. And then yeah. Basically Midoriya gets all her hair and puts into a ponytail, and he basically starts forcing her to give him head. And then yeah, she basically stands up, and Midoriya basically turns her around. Her head is on the locker now, and Midoriya basically starts ramming her back in. So basically he's destroying her from the inside out. He nuts again, and when he nuts, he literally hits a wall, and kind of enters that bitch. He nuts. Boom, already in the womb. But don't worry, she's not gonna get pregnant. Because she said so. And then bitch. Sorry. Oh, alright, yeah. Alright, so yeah. Basically, Midoriya, he does doggy style. I mean, she does doggy style, he just puts it in. And then, they do reverse cowgirl, and then, she gets on, Midoriya picks her up from her ass, and then, she puts her legs around his waist, her arms around his neck, giving him a hickey, kissing him and shit. Midoriya's, doing her from the ass now. He nuts, and like whenever he pulls out, there's like a shit ton of cum coming out of her asshole, and yeah, Midoriya leaves 5 minutes later, and he leaves the locker room, and he leaves with her, and she was wearing her hero costume, but Midoriya kind of ripped it with his claw, because Midoriya got to the point where he was so horny that he didn't care. So, by the way, she gave him a thigh job by like basically Midori was sitting down in the bench, and then she basically Midori, like, she basically sat on Midoriya and like closed her legs between his dick, like, I don't know, she closed like her legs, and Midoriya was how Bito, she started like going up and down, up and down. He finally nutted, and like it shot, so it hit the wall, it hit the locker, and yeah, and then she gave him a foot job, and Midori came. Like, he nutted from that too. And yeah, that should be enough. So yeah. And then Midoriya, he leaves the locker room with her, He puts, like, he's wearing his outfit now. So yeah, and he has like he has a sweater, a black sweater. And he gives it to her, she wears it, they both leave the locker room. And Midoriya goes back to the place with everybody else, and Mount Lady, she goes back to her house. And Midoriya goes back to the place with the cameras and shit where there's monitoring everybody. And yeah, and he when he gets there, he says, "Oh my, I need a tape of everybody, doing their tests and all that." And like, All Might's like, "Why is that?" Midoriya's like, "Oh, it's because Aizawa called me so I could get the footage and shit, so he could grade it." And it's like, All Might's like, "Okay." So he gets a USB, he plugs into the computer, and he basically downloads the information into the USB, and he gives it to Midoriya. He's like, "Here you go." Midoriya's like, "Yeah, sure, thanks." And Midoriya, yeah, Midoriya's about to leave, but then All Might grabs him by the arm, and he's like, "Yo, Midoriya." And then Midoriya, before All Might could say another word, Midoriya, like, let's just go to Midoriya, like, in his mind, he's like, "What the hell is that smell?" And then, like, Midoriya, he's like, "Huh? Like, what's that smell?" And by the way, this is from Teen Wolf. This move wasn't like brought in by Scott, maybe. Yeah, Scott. Like around season 4, maybe, who knows? I don't remember. And he basically, it's something that he could smell. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that he smells in the air that's very thick, and it's coming from All Might. And he looks at All Might, and he's like, in a curious way, he's like, what's going on and shit. All Might's like, "What are you looking at, Midoriya?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing." And All Might's like, "Okay." And he goes back to talking, and he's like, "Yo, Midoriya, it wasn't hero like to hurt Bakugo and Ida like the way you did." And Midoriya's like, "First of all, I'm not trying to become a hero, so I don't care what you think, how I do, and what I do. Second of all, even if I did care about how I did it, I would actually listen. And third of all, the only reason why I'm in this school is to, get rid of my debt to the fucking police." And like, a lot of people, like, everybody's like, "What is he talking about?" and all that. So some people think that Midoriya is like, they think that he wants to be a hero, but like doesn't act like it. You know what I mean? And yeah. Sorry, Sorry, yeah. Midoriya basically, like, as soon as All Might says like that, like, Midoriya's like, "Yeah." So he walks away. He goes to class 1A, and he's like, "All Might," he's like, "Aizawa," he's like, "Here you go." Like, he gives Aizawa the USB. Like, Aizawa's like, "All right, thank you." And yeah. And Aizawa was like, and by the way, Midoriya. And Midoriya's like, huh? Yeah, what's up? Aizawa was like, I know what you did, you know. You know, like, Midoriya's like, oh yeah, you saw me? You know, he's like, yes, I did. And you know, like, he's like, fuck, how did you hear? Like, that shit's like, what, like six doors down? And you know, like, he's like, I heard you though, you know. And you know, Midoriya's like, how? Like, the fucking lockers are thick as fuck. The doors, they're thick as fuck. The fucking, there's no holes when you get that. And then, you know, Midoriya's like, fuck. You heard me have sex with Mount Lady? And Midoriya, like, Aizawa was like, what the fuck? You know, like, fucking, the fucking Aizawa was like, I didn't, like, that's not what I was talking about, you know. Midoriya's like, that's not? I know. Aizawa was like, no. And, you know, he's like, oh, okay, then what were you talking about? You know, fucking, like, Aizawa was like, oh, I was talking about Miss Bakugo. Oh, and it's like, Midoriya's like, oh, her? Oh, yeah, I remember her. And, you know, fucking, like, Aizawa was like, what the fuck? Like, cause, like, the way Midoriya said, like, oh, yeah, I remember her, like, was, like, so, like, he said it like he hadn't seen her, like, in 3 years or some shit. Like, oh, yeah, I remember her. Like, he says it like nothing really happened, and he says it like he hasn't seen her in a long ass time. And yeah. So, yeah, Midoriya basically goes with Aizawa. Like, it's the end of class, it's the end of school now. They go to the house, right? Yeah, they go back to the house. Okay. They go back to the house. Midoriya's like, he goes to his room and shit, you know, he's like doing like fucking whatever. And by the way, Midoriya, he sheds. Sorry, I keep hearing some shit in the background right now. Like, yeah, Midoriya, he sheds in the night sometimes. Like, sometimes he transforms not intentionally, and like, yeah, he just sheds. Because whenever he accidentally transforms and then he sheds. Yeah. Dumbass, bro. Oh, hell no, bro. Sorry, no, yeah, it's not you. Alright, so yeah, back to the story. So, Midoriya basically goes to the house, he goes to sleep, and he sheds. But, like, Midoriya, he wakes up at 2 in the morning, right? In a cold sweat. And Midoriya, he fucking gets up and shit, you know? He's, like, in the middle of the night, he's shirtless, wearing underwear and all that, you know, like, you know, because, you know, it gets hot, you know. But that day just happened to be cold. And, you know, he wakes up and he's, like, fucking sweating. And, you know, like, and, you know, Midoriya's like, what the fuck? It's cold. Why am I sweating? And, you know, like, yeah, and then, like, he looks around his bed and he sees that, like, it's covered in fur. He's like, fuck, I shedded. You know, like, I shedded, you know, past tense and shit. Like, I shed. Or whatever, however the fuck you say it. Yeah. And then, basically, Midoriya hears a howl. And, you know, he's like, what the fuck? So, you know, he gets up real quick, jumps out the fucking window. You know, fucking he transforms into, like, a beast. And, by the way, I'm gonna play the video every time. Yeah, Midoriya does this, because remember, it takes pain. Sorry. Yeah, so just imagine that, but like, minus the, you know, falling on the ground on his knees, yeah, it's just like that, except, you know, minus him falling on his knees, but him just, like, slowly walking while him transforming. And, you know, like, he even does this, like, he transforms, and then, you know, he does this, you know, he roars and shit. Aizawa doesn't hear him because, you know, Aizawa has, like, a soundproof room because, you know, Midoriya likes to, you know, roar in his sleep, you know, fucking he transforms, but not transforms, you know. He just like whenever he like to him sleep, like when he yawns, it's more like roaring. So he's like and shit, you know. So yeah. And you know, he just had to upgrade and shit, you know, to get soundproof. So yeah. Midoriya runs deep into the forest, and you know, he sees like two wolves. And you know, he looks around and he sees, like, remember the wolves had night vision, and you know, he's looking at the wolves, and you know, the wolves are looking at him, and they're treating him like the alpha because, you know, like they could clearly see that Midoriya's obviously bigger than him and like strong, like bigger than them, stronger than them, faster, you know, just better in every way. And yeah, so yeah, yeah, Midoriya's basically gonna have like two wolves. So you know, they listen to him. So Midoriya tells him not to, like, you know, like tells him not to follow him, but like just like to stay nearby just in case, you know, just like to be his pets, or not pets, you know, just equals. But like, you know, obviously Midoriya's better, you know, bigger and shit. And you know what? I might make someone into a werewolf in this one. So yeah. Comment down below comment down below if you want me to add a werewolf, like another werewolf into this one. But it'll be someone that Midoriya bites. And yeah. So let's go on the story. So basically, it's Midoriya goes back to his house, and he, like, as he's walking back, he basically, honestly, I think I'm gonna add more werewolves into this shit. I want to make some fights go on, some real good shit. You know, fuck it, why not? I'm gonna do it. Whatever, they're werewolves, right? There are more werewolves, and you know, and these werewolves they're kind of like. These werewolves they're alphas. They're alphas, alright? They're alphas. And, you know, they don't have a pack because, you know, they killed their own and gained their strength. And, yeah. So, this is actually going to take place in the same night. Midoriya's still going to have two wolves, but, like, they're going to dip somewhere else. And Midoriya tells him not to interfere with this because, you know, he knows that they're going to overpower them easily. And, yeah. So, basically, Midoriya, he's walking home. He's going to the house, and he deep shifts, too. So, like, as he's walking, he's sort of limping because as he's de-transforming, his bones are starting to, like, you know, combust inside. Instead of being, you know, as thick, they're just, like, you know, shrinking and, you know, like, you know, just doing its own stuff, you know, like shrinking, losing his black fur, and, you know, like losing his fangs, his teeth, and all that. He's just losing it all. So, you know, as soon as like his de-transformation happens, he starts walking normally. So yeah, he starts de-transforming, and you know, yeah, and then all of a sudden he hears ruckus in the bushes, right? And then he hears ruckus in the bushes, and you know, he looks in the bushes. He transforms his eyes into wolf eyes, so now they're red. They're still red, crimson red, but like, how do I say it? They're still crimson red, but like they look a little bit more different. They look more redder. You know, they look redder and more wolf-like. So it's got like a little bit of split to it in the, you know, in the top and bottom. And that's it. And he sees two big ass wolves that are almost his height, but like they're still like 6'11". So they're almost 6 foot. And Midoriya looks at him. And, you know, they're looking at him. But like he sees one and it's brown, and he sees another one that's white. Yeah. Sorry. Fucking, I'm getting distracted. Alright. So yeah, Midoriya sees the wolves, and he kind of takes a step back, and one of the wolves has the balls to come out, and one of them de-transforms and shit. He's naked actually. He's naked. He walks up to Midoriya. He's like, not walks, nah. He basically takes a step forward, and he's like, so you're the one, huh? Like with deep ass voice too. And Midoriya's like, I'm the one what? And, he's like, you're the one who everybody's been talking about. And yes, I did say everybody. Midoriya's like, I guess. Depends what kind of people you're talking about. And it's like, our kind. And, yeah. And then Midoriya's like, our kind, huh? So there are more of us, And he's like, yes. And, Midoriya's like, dope. And, basically the wolf's like, join my pack. Midoriya's like, nah, he's like, nah, I'll pass. I prefer to live on my own, do my own stuff. And, he's like, why? Midoriya's like, cause why not? Like, I don't like to follow rules. I kind of have to now, but hey. And, he's like, join my pack. And, he's like, nah. And Midoriya's like, nah, I don't want to. And, he's like, fine, so be it. And like, if he takes a step back, and like the brown wolf, basically the werewolf, basically comes out of the bushes and attacks Midoriya, and Midoriya runs at the werewolf, and he transforms himself, and the werewolf and Midoriya basically they're facing off, and like all of a sudden, like the other white werewolf, he jumps in and shit, he bites Midoriya on the arm, and like Midoriya's arm is basically. The bite was so deep that as soon as the werewolf it kept the flesh and you pulled out, and then like all you could see is Midoriya's bone on like the arm, and Midoriya used like his arm that's different, he used his arm that wasn't damaged to grab the brown werewolf, and he used it to he grabbed its head and he crushed its skull in, but not too much, just to the point where it'll just to the point where you'll hear the cracks and like a little bit of the bones, or the skull is combustion, so you can see it. And the white werewolf looks at Midoriya, basically rushes at Midoriya, and Midoriya takes a side step, and the white werewolf jumps, and it misses Midoriya barely, and the werewolf basically falls on his back because he wasn't prepared to stick that type of landing. He was trying to attack Midoriya, so he wasn't trying to get the landing. So yeah, and then he grabbed the white werewolf, and then he crushed he crushed its throat, so it can't breathe. So it's trying to use his final seconds to kill Midoriya. So it rushes at Midoriya, and then it basically claws Midoriya's chest, and it causes him to have like a bigger scratch mark on him, like a big ass scratch mark on his stomach and shit. And then the brown werewolf comes out of nowhere and fucking rushes at Midoriya, and jumps at Midoriya, and Midoriya bites the fucking, he dodges the werewolf, and the werewolf passes him slowly, and Midoriya bites its throat and just rips off its throat. And then the white werewolf, it's still got some fight in it because it's a werewolf, and it's got some fight. And because of the super regeneration, it's kind of healing in the same time, so it's not dead yet. You know what I mean? It takes a little more to kill it, but it's kind of regenerating. And the progress, the way to stop the regeneration is by puncturing the chest and going deep. That stops the regeneration because you're interfering the body, the reproductive system and shit. You're destroying that, so it's obviously gonna die. And the fucking white werewolf comes out of the white werewolf. He jumps on Midoriya again, and then Midoriya the Midoriya, he uses his left hand because, you know, the right arm was the one who got the all the muscle and bone and flesh, like all the bone, all the flesh and muscle bitten out of it. He uses his left hand. He grabs it by the snout, and he's holding it down. And Midoriya uses his jaw, like his mouth, and he puts his mouth over the fucking mouth of the werewolf, and he's slowly like opening his mouth, like opening and closing it, like trying to get a good grip on it. And you know, like as soon as like he's like slow fucking hell, man. I don't know how to explain this. So basically, Midoriya, he opens his mouth and puts the whole mouth of the werewolf inside his mouth, and he's biting it and crushing the snout, so it's not like being able to use the amount of teeth that it will take to kill Midoriya. So you know, he bite like. And also, the werewolf is trying to twist its head so it could bite Midoriya. Like, it could swoop in and bite Midoriya on the side. Like, on the side of the face and shit. But, like, Midoriya, he's smart because, you know, he's digging his teeth really deep into it. So, even if it tries to move out, it can't because, you know, his teeth are so strong and so into it. Like, even if it tries, you know, wiggle out of it, it can't because, you know, his teeth are stiff as fuck. And, you know, he finally gets to the point where his jaw and his upper mouth are basically to the eyes, and he crushes the mouth, and it can't move anymore. And, you know, he basically, you know, goes for the full sweep kill. He basically puts the whole head into his mouth and bites it and crushes it. And, you know, Midoriya basically walks back to the house and shit. He fucking opens the door because, you know, he's not in condition, you know, to climb over into the fucking window, you know, just like open that bitch, you know, just go in. He's not in that condition. He's just he's injured. Remember, his arm is, you know, his flesh and muscle is gone because the fucking wolf bit it. And by day, the fucking werewolves will turn into human beings. So yeah, that's how it works. So Midoriya, he walks back to the fucking house. He's wearing his booty shorts, and he walks in. He opens the door, and Aizawa doesn't see him because, you know, remember the fucking. If someone wanted to, you know, like if Aizawa wanted to see who was at the door, he'll have to be like, he implanted a system into his room, like a doorbell ring. If he hears it in his room, comes out, opens the door like that. But Midoriya opened the door with the key that he had. And so Midoriya started crawling in, like, not crawling, but, you know, he started limping towards his room, covering his arm. He goes into his room, takes a shower, and, you know, his arm is slowly healing because it's from a werewolf, so, like, it's strong and all that. It's, like, kind of a weakness towards other werewolves where if you get bitten, like, your regeneration will be slower than bullets that you'll take. You know what I mean? Like, if you get shot from if he got shot with a gun with the bullet will come out of his body, and, you know, the tissue will start regenerating. But since this mark is from a werewolf, it'll be slower because, you know, it's from the same kind and it's like nothing other before. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. So yeah, Midoriya goes back to his room. He takes a shower. He puts on some clean clothes and all that. He lays down. He's fucking exhausted. And then, you know, the next day is the USJ. So Midoriya's, like, body it's still regenerating. So his body looks normal, but, like, inside, like, in his body, he still feels physical damage, like sore. So, you know, it's down, like, it's really fucking him up. So, like, now he's down to, like, 25% of his real power. And yeah. And and then basically what happens next is Midoriya uses fucking hell. Alright. Midoriya, it's the next day now, and it's the USJ. Remember, I'm only going to go to the USJ and maybe a little bit more, but who knows. I might feel more tired. So, you know, it's the USJ. Midoriya, he goes to he gets up and he looks sore. So Aizawa points it out. He's like, why are you sore, Midoriya? And Midoriya's like, oh, I did a nightly jog. And he smiles. And fucking Aizawa, since Aizawa lives with Midoriya, he's like, bro, there's something wrong with Midoriya, because Midoriya never smiles. He never smiles. This like, would you smile if you look like this, dressed like this? Just in general, would you smile? No, you would not. So Aizawa knows there's something wrong with Midoriya, but Midoriya's not telling him. So Aizawa's like, all right, everybody, get your asses up, go to the fucking front of the school, and go into the bus. So they go outside, they go into the bus, and then Sue, while they're driving, Sue's like, hey, yo, Midoriya, like let's see who's the strongest in the class, and and then Sue's like, Mina's like, it's obviously Midoriya, because Midoriya took down Bakugo and Ida, which were one of the strongest in the classes and shit. And Midoriya is like, he doesn't care, so he's sitting down with his hands crossed. He's sitting next to Kirishima, and Kirishima's someone that he doesn't find completely annoying. Everybody else, I mean, Kaminari and Mineta, they're not so bad either, but they're not to the point where they'll make Midoriya smile. No, not yet, not even close. I'll probably make Midoriya smile for real, like around the camp arc. But what part? Alright. And by the way, Midoriya, he kind of likes cats, and he kind of, especially people with cat quirks or who look like cats. Fucking up, man. So basically, this is what's gonna happen. All right. Midoriya's sitting down with his hands crossed, and he's like minding his own business, like not giving a fuck about anything, looking like he don't give a fuck, which he doesn't. Like, he does look like he doesn't give a fuck. And like Froppy says, who do you think is the strongest in the class? And then Mina says like, oh, it's obviously Deku, because Deku took down Bakugo and Ida, which are the strongest students. And like everybody's like, yeah, they start like, yeah, it's true, yeah. And like fucking Bakugo, Ida's butthurt because he got destroyed, and he's like, I'm a 10, fucking hell, man. I come from a family of privileged motherfuckers. I should be the one who wins the fights, not loses. So he's butthurt because of that. Bakugo's hurt from the pride, and Todoroki's insecure about him being about Midoriya. Around Midoriya, because he feels like Midoriya could kick his ass, which Midoriya can completely, like, no doubt about it. And yeah, and then fucking Mina's like, I mean, come on, like, you can't pull off whatever Midoriya did in the test and not be the strongest. So yeah, Midoriya basically, let's do a flashback. Like Momo points out, she's like, yeah, she's right, like. When Midoriya basically, he did his jump scare, by transforming into the wolf and shit, ripping off his clothes, like, not no homo on that, but, just like, transforming and shit, and then, doing this to scare Bakugo. Bakugo ran like a bitch, everybody started laughing. Bakugo's like, who the hell are you talking about and shit? And, like, Midoriya doesn't give a fuck, so he's like, you, dumbass, and, Bakugo was about to say something, but he remembered the ass kicking that Midoriya delivered to him, so he shut up real quick. I mean, you can't blame him, to be honest. Who wouldn't be so scared who wouldn't be scared to the person who just beat their ass like that? And yeah, they go to the school, and basically the 13 comes out. Fuck, I thought I saw my dog right there next to me, dude. That was scary as fuck, bro. But yeah, and then basically, yeah, and then basically the dog, and then basically Midoriya, they get out of the bus and shit, and 13's like, you guys, your quirks are very strong. Your quirks could be, like, your quirk, she gives the same speech, like, your quirks, you guys use your quirks to help people. Everybody's like, yeah, and then she's like, and your quirks could also be used to kill and hurt. You know, basically, you know, everybody's mood just died down and shit. And then, you know, yeah. And then, you know, Midori just, like, basically speaks something. He's like fucking, his eyes are closed and all that, you know, his, like, with his hands, like, crossed and shit. He's like, I mean, obviously. And, you know, basically the 13 looks at him, she's like, what do you mean? Like, what? And, you know, Midori's like, obviously, quirks could be used to kill and hurt people. And, you know, like, she's like, huh, what do you mean? And Midori's like, I mean, think about it, like, shit, like, if someone has a water quirk, someone can, you know, easily, like, you know, throw water into someone's face for, like, a long period of time, and the person will drown because of their lack of oxygen. And, like, you know, like, he points at Uraraka, like, her quirk could levitate someone to the point where, like, they could go high enough to a place and, you know, die. Then, Kirishima's, like, he could easily, like, run into someone while hardened and kill them by enough force and all that, you know, cracking their skull or some shit like that. Basically pointing down the bads about their quirks and how they could be used. And, you know, they basically, like, 13 says, like, oh, what about yours? And, you know, Midori, like, points out. It's like, everybody knows the dangers of my quirk. And, you know, basically, you know, fucking Bakugo, he starts, like, you know, sweating a little bit. You know, basically, everybody's like, what are you doing, Bakugo? He's like, don't mess with him. And, you know, fucking, like, Ida, he's still butthurt, so, you know, he's gonna say some shit. Man, you know, it's not gonna face Midoriya, so, you know. And, you know, Midoriya finally lifts up his head. He finally lifts up his head, and he looks at fucking 13, and he's like, I'm not gonna be a hero, I'm just gonna, you know, be a lazy dude. Yeah. And, yeah. And by the way, remember when I said that the people who have the same type of virus as Midoriya or have the Dorman virus become, like, if they have the virus and they get bitten and shit, like, they become werewolves and all that? Yeah. So let me explain to you about that. So basically, Midoriya's grandfather, who was the previous owner of was one of the wielders of the virus itself, so he passed it on to his other children, and Inko's father didn't know about them because, you know, they were separated as young children, so, you know, they had children of their own and out there fucking, you know, doing their own shit. So, you know, they don't even know that fucking know that shit. They don't even know each other, but they just think that they're random people to each other. But, you know. Okay, 18 plus on this channel. I bet, bro. I bet. I already had like 18 plus on, like, in the beginning of the channel, in the beginning of this episode. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And if that's not enough for you guys, I'll do it tomorrow. My mom's gonna be gone by then, but today I'm limited on time. I know it's 40 minutes. So yeah. So basically, Midoriya looks at 13, you know, he releases a little bit of his bloodlust, so his bloodlust is like a little purple and shit, you know, like an aura surrounding him, and, you know, he releases it, and, you know, fucking 13, she sees it and feels it, you know, she she takes a step back, you know, she's like, damn, this kid's serious and all that, like, he's serious business. And Midoriya, like, Aizawa tells Midoriya, like, yo, stop it. And, you know, Midoriya basically, like, you know, pulls back and all that, you know. He released, like, he puts all his, like, you know, anger back, or, you know, his, like, bloodlust back. And that's it, yeah. And, yeah. Oh, fuck. Oh, it is down. Alright, yeah, back to the story. So, Midoriya was basically, he's like, I'm done. So he was gonna go down the stairs and shit, and then he sees a portal. Like, he sees a portal, and then, you know, he's like, what the fuck? And then, you know, Aizawa's like, what? And then Midoriya's like, look at the portal. And, you know, he's like, Aizawa sees the portal. Midoriya's like someone's coming out of there. And, you know, fucking Aizawa's like, huh? And, you know, someone comes out. Shigaraki, Kirigiri, fucking the Nomu, and a werewolf. Yeah, that's right. I said werewolf. So I'm gonna be bringing in some werewolves in this shit, cause you know, ahaha. And some of the werewolves will, I don't know, might be important, but who knows? I don't know. Yeah. Midoriya, Midoriya sees the werewolf, and you know, he's like, he immediately like, you know, fucking gets serious all of a sudden, like, you know, just gets really, 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 really serious. And then, you know, everybody sees that, so, you know, everybody thinks that, well, either Midoriya's seen this dude, and he knows that it's real shit, you know, like, not fucking around anymore, like, he's that powerful to take seriously from Midoriya, because, you know, everybody knows Midoriya's really powerful, and if Midoriya takes this shit seriously, then they're all fucked. So, yeah. Alright. Hold on, give me a second, my throat. Yeah, so yeah, they all know that they're fucked now, so, yeah. Yeah. And, basically, the Nomu is gonna, like, Shigaraki tells the werewolf to, like, hey, yo, dog, he tells the dog, he tells the werewolf, but to Shigaraki, the werewolf is nothing but a dog. So he tells him, like, dog, kill that kid. So, you know, the dog, he, like, the werewolf, by the way, the werewolf is, the werewolf is gray. Yeah, the werewolf is gray. So, the werewolf just basically runs at Midoriya because, you know, Midoriya's the closest. And Midoriya transforms. And I don't know how to describe that shit, dude. Because, you know, it's real difficult. So I'm just going to use the video to, you know, show you. And by the way, his hero costume is this outfit. Look. So yeah, basically, Shigaraki was like, what? You know, like, there's another one of you? And, you know, the werewolf is confused as too, you know, because, you know, he just thought that him and, like, a couple other werewolves were the only ones, but no. And then, you know, the fucking werewolf rushes at Deku, and Deku rushes at the werewolf. Everybody's confused as fuck, because, you know, when people saw Midoriya in the fucking, when people saw Midoriya in the camera footages and on the fucking cameras and shit, all they saw was blurs and like just like kind of like a little bit of blur like this, but not really. But this picture is an example. Like, this picture is what you guys see, cause I'm telling you. But other like people in the anime, they just saw like a blur running, like rushing at Bakugo and shit. And yeah, so now that they see Midoriya's like true form, because remember what I said earlier, like on my last video, that only extremely powerful werewolves could only transform in will. Midoriya could do that too, because, you know, he's powerful enough, because he's killed 2 werewolves. So the werewolf and like the great werewolf and Midoriya rush at each other, and like as soon as they start running, it causes like shockwaves, sorta, because, you know, their leg muscles are causing too much. Like, it has so much power that it's releasing a shit ton of air and shit. And then they run at each other, and as soon as they get to each other, they lock arms. So like, basically, they grab each other's like hands, and, you know, they're grabbing onto each other. You know, like, they start squeezing. You know, and yeah, and, you know, basically Midoriya breaks it off by, you know, pushing both of his hands, grabbing onto his, to the side, and then Midoriya basically, like, you know, he stabs the werewolf in in the chest. But like the werewolf was fast enough to like stop Midoriya cutting him deeper. And Midoriya uses his other hand to like try to cut into the werewolf, but the werewolf, instead of trying to grab Midoriya's arm, like his hand, he used his own claw to like dig into Midoriya's stomach. And Midoriya, he got cut, and they both Midoriya like shot backwards. He went backwards, and the other werewolf did the same. But like their wounds were deep enough to like stop them from healing. It was healing, but slowly. And remember, if something were to like stab you and go deep enough into your body, like your respiratory system area, then the healing regeneration, it will stop, because at that part it's just disturbing. It's disturbing the healing progress. It's like basically like a pause. But if you take it out, it's regenerating, I guess. But it'll take some time to get it started. So yeah. And the Midoriya and the werewolf both heal, and then they both punch, and like their punches lock, and it causes like shockwaves. And then like the fucking Midoriya basically punches the werewolf in the face, and like the werewolf basically like shoots out a tooth from its mouth, and like it shoots out some blood too. And then Midoriya basically grabs it, uses both his hands to grab it by the shoulders and pulls it in, and Midoriya basically knees it in the stomach, and then the werewolf grabs its stomach, and Midoriya uses his fist to like punch in the face. And then Midoriya was gonna stab in the stomach again, but then the werewolf, its willpower was enough to like stop it. And it was enough to stop Midoriya from like cutting deeper into his body. So Midoriya basically tried it again, but with the other hand. But the werewolf caught Midoriya's wrists. Like Midoriya got Midoriya's wrists, and basically pushed Midoriya's wrists to the side, holding them still. Like the werewolf basically headbutted Midoriya in the head, and Midoriya fell back. And people are some people were gonna help Midoriya, but they were stopped by Shigaraki and all of them. And basically the werewolf basically, he was gonna cut Midoriya again, but Midoriya stopped him by kicking his foot to the side. And then Midoriya basically, he God, that's it, fucking Midoriya, he with his reflexes, he extended his arm, and then he slashed the wolf in the throat, and it started gushing blood and shit. But its regeneration was still there, so it was healing very, very slowly, faster than a human. But to werewolves, it's very slow healing, but for humans, it's fast healing. You know what I mean? So you could see the tissue regrowing, but slow. And then Midoriya basically he acted like he was gonna slash he acted like he was gonna slash in the throat again. So the werewolf doesn't dodge it, but then Midoriya, he used his hand to go down and slash in the stomach. And it used its hands to go on his stomach. And Midoriya slashed down the chest, and then slashed down the other chest. The same shit, doing over and over, and then just slashing it on its face. And Midoriya basically grabbed it from the face. Just use his fingers, his thumb fingers with large claws, dig into its eyes and shit, piercing its brain and shit, killing him. But before Midoriya could completely kill him, before he could reach the brain, the